it's been about a year since I've read The Way of Kings. Now, I always thought, is The Way of Kings really overhyped? The more I thought about it, the more I actually had to sit back and really think about it. And the answer is yes and no. So when I say overhyped, I don't mean the book itself. I always think a lot of the audience likes to hype up books. Like currently right now is The Fourth Wing, which I haven't read, but I hear a lot of things about how it's overhyped. And my thought was, is The Way of Kings the same exact way? The way that, so I've never read a Brandon Sanderson book before I read The Way of Kings. I actually just read Mistborn, the first book of that. And I sat back and I was like, man, this is like his first like big book besides Elantris. It was like, how much hype is The Way of Kings really? Because when I read this book, the first time I was reading this, at first I was like, all right, it's insane. Now, when I say insane, I meant like the prologue of it when you meet Zeth and what he's doing, the assassin, was just absolutely bananas. And I think that was a really cool aspect of it. It really sets the tone of this first book, especially because it's like 1,100 pages or something, and it's huge. So going in there, and this was my first Brandon Sanderson book, mind you guys, so I was really dipping my toes into like the hype train. Well, of course I wanted to see what the hype was. I just never did a review and never really thought about it, and I am now still trying to see how I feel. And honestly, I think the book did feel a little overhyped at first, but now I think it definitely simmered down. And I mean, with booktube in general, if a Brandon Sanderson book comes out, everyone just like goes bananas over Brandon Sanderson, which is fine. Brandon Sanderson himself is just a really good, genuine guy. I follow him on YouTube because he's just seems like a good person, which is also awesome, I think, personally. With this book in general, like I said, the prologue just really set the tone for me, and I thought, wow, this is so good. I never thought I would see something like this, ever. So going in, it was just, because usually prologues are kind of slow, especially because I've been reading like the Wheel of Time, and the prologues for Wheel of Time, except for the very first one, was actually really good. After that, they kind of felt stale and overly done, if that makes sense. The Way of Kings felt fresh and new, and then I actually start going into the world. Now, the world building is, everyone always talks about how great the world building is and how great the magic system in Brandon Sanderson's world, the Cosmere. So, of course, reading this, I got to really feel the full experience. And yes, I agree. I think the world building of this is just so cool. It doesn't feel like it's on Earth at all. Like, just the way he has, characters are made, creatures, the atmosphere, everything. Like, there's like a sandstorm that happens like every month or something, and it brings stormlight. And I think that's another unique thing, is the magic in here is the stormlight, which obviously that's what the cover is called. But reading this, I thought it was so interesting. It's just the world and the magic and how money is worked, how all this is so unique, where I was like, wow, this is so different. And I was like, all right, is this like the hype? Is this what it is? And there is parts of this book, and especially in the first book, where I was like, all right, I can see why people are like, dang, this is really good. But the first like 400 or 500 pages, halfway through the first book, it was sluggish. It felt slow. The characters were kind of hard to follow, besides Kaladin, but this whole book was about Kaladin. And I learned that each book is a POV of someone's backstory of one of the main characters. And you got the main characters of Kaladin, Shala, and Dalinar. Shala in this was alright. I don't know how I feel too much with her. She was an alright character in this, but Kaladin definitely had like the spotlight on him. I really liked Kaladin, and I liked Bridge 4. I just felt like that was like a really good family unit, and it was really fun when I would get back into Kaladin's life, his POV, even his backstory. It was nice to get into that and just learning everything. And the way that Brandon Sanderson does depression is actually a really good and healthy way, and that's what Kaladin deals with. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. But like I said, there's a lot of parts when I'm reading this, I'm like, man, where's the hype? Like, this book is really good. Like, I give it like a 4 out of 5 or 4.5. I don't remember. It's been a while. I could check. I'm trying to understand what the hype was. Because, man, this book is really good. And it's unique. it's over 1,000 pages. So I'm trying to like get through the gist of why this was hyped while reading it. But the whole time I kept escaping into it. I was feeling that more of the characters I was reading, I was somewhat enjoying. But like I said, Kaladin was the one I really liked. Dalinar was all right. Like, you got to the little bit of the political stuff, which was fine. But at the same time, it's like, all right. Because I felt like Dalinar wasn't doing too much. But when you first meet Dalinar and the new king, it was so good. And you like met, like, you want to learn more about Dalinar, but you didn't get to. And unfortunately, I stopped on Oathbringer, so I haven't read Oathbringer yet. And apparently that's where you meet Dalinar's backstory, which I'm like, why? So I have to wait for that. Shala, I liked Shala's idea, like everything she was doing, because when you first meet her, she's a really innocent, quiet girl, you think. She's starting to steal the Soulcaster, because her family's is broken, and the way to help her family is to get a new one and swap them. So while you're reading this, you're actually trying to learn what she's trying to do and how she's trying to get it. So that was interesting. But at the same time, it's like, I wasn't rooting for Shala hardly, because I was like, man, she's kind of just like an evil person. So I was, to me, I felt like it was evil. Like, it wasn't evil, but I also understood why she was doing this, because this is for her family. And the things you do for your family is always top priority. So while I was reading it, I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, I get it, but I don't. That was the other thing too, is I just never tried to, maybe I didn't like try to get into her shoes to understand more of it. And with Kaladin though, I really did like, felt like I could really connect with Kaladin. And that's what I really liked, is Kaladin took all the responsibilities and put it on himself, put it on his shoulders. Every single thing that was going on that was bad, Kaladin would do it for himself and say it was his fault, which made it so much more interesting, more investing to be with Kaladin. Because the other two, you're fine. I didn't feel like I could like relate to either of them that much. But Kaladin I could, and that's why I was like, oh yeah, I'm feeling this. But when I'm trying to think is like, is this really overhyped? Or is this not hyped? Or is this like right in the middle? Like I said, there is some parts of it where I feel like it is overhyped. And then there's other parts of it that I feel like it's like not hyped. The ending of it is very good. I've always been told that Brandon Sanderson's very good at ending a book. The ending of books are usually just epic. And this was really good. It was kind of insane. I'm not going to spoil a lot, and that's what I've been doing. But the ending of this book was really unique, and it definitely was like satisfying. Like, if the book was done, say this was just the only book of the series and there was no other books, which would be weird, but if there wasn't, I don't think I'd be upset with the ending of this. But knowing there's, 4 other books, I was like, holy crap. I just felt like it's not overhyped, but at the same time, I feel like it is. But yet again, I feel like when you go on YouTube to watch book reviews, or just booktubers in general, and they all are doing the same book, the hype always feels like it's more than what the book itself is actually worth, if that makes sense. But at the same time, I see Goodreads, it's like, his book is like a 4.61 rating, and it's a 1,000-page book, so it's like, is it really worth it? But then I see like books like The Fourth Wing, and I hear like The Fourth Wing is just like people that are connected to dragons through their minds, and they just want to like bang, and I'm like, what is going on? So I haven't read the book, but I'm kind of tempted to see if it's actually worth the hype. I guess at the end of the day, the question is it really overhyped? Not anymore. I think once book 5 comes out, you're going to see the flood of booktubers just flying through, which is pretty normal. I mean, you had the Greenbone Saga did it. If you guys made it to the end of this video, I do appreciate it. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and check out all my links down below. Check out my book. Make it hyped. I'm just kidding at the end. But make sure you guys stay safe, stay hungry, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.